Welcome to today's class. In the part 1 of chapter 2, acids, bases and salts, we discussed about acids, the chemical and physical properties of acids and their various reactions. In today's class, that means in part 2 of this chapter, we will discuss about bases, their physical and chemical properties, their chemical reactions, and also we will discuss about the various common bases found at our homes and their properties. So let's begin today's class. In part 2, let's discuss properties of bases. First, reaction of bases with water. Well, we have discussed this earlier also. When bases are dissolved in water, they actually dissociate to give their ions. So let's take example of sodium hydroxide. When dissolved in water, it will dissociate into its ions, and since it is a strong base, so it will completely dissociate into its ions. Same is the case with potassium hydroxide. Again, it is a strong base, therefore it will dissociate into its ions completely. Then comes magnesium hydroxide. Again, it is a strong base and it will also dissociate completely into its ions. Now the important thing to be noted is bases which are soluble in water are actually known as alkalis. Those bases which are completely soluble in water, they are known as alkalis. Reaction of base with metals. Metals react with base in the following way. When they react, a salt is formed and hydrogen gas is liberated. And this reaction does not take place with all the metals. Metals actually react with bases in different fashion. For example, sodium hydroxide when reacts with zinc forms a salt known as sodium zincate and hydrogen gas is liberated. Again, sodium hydroxide also reacts with aluminium to produce a salt sodium aluminate and hydrogen gas is evolved. This reaction doesn't take place with every metal. When a more reactive metal is there, then it can displace less reactive metal from its base. For example, sodium when reacts with magnesium hydroxide, sodium being more reactive will displace magnesium and will form sodium hydroxide. So you can see that metals react with bases in different fashions. Now let's perform a simple activity. Take 10 ml water in a beaker and add a few drops of concentrated H2SO4 to it and swirl the beaker slowly to mix the contents. Now touch the base of the beaker. Is there any change in the temperature? Yes. You will observe the base of the beaker becomes hot. Why? Because heat is given out, which means this is an exothermic reaction. So acid reacting with water, or when you are forming or preparing solution of acids in water, then the reaction is exothermic, it produces heat, right? Now let's do one more thing. Let's add some sodium hydroxide pellets to 10 ml of water in another beaker. Now what do you observe? Now again the temperature of the beaker increases as sodium hydroxide dissolves in water. Sodium hydroxide is available in the form of pellets always, circular small round pellets. So we will observe that dissolving of acid or a base in water, both are exothermic reaction and heat is evolved during this process. So this activity actually proves that dissolving an acid or a base into water is an exothermic reaction. It is basically very exothermic because huge amount of heat is liberated. In the previous activity, we just added a few drops of acid and water, and heat was liberated. So what will happen when you actually dilute a concentrated acid? So since the process is very much exothermic and lot of heat is evolved, therefore the correct way of adding water is given in this figure. I have given in this figure acid plus water is a cross. That means this should not be done. And water plus acid is a tick mark, this should be done. This means always water should not be added to acid, but it should be the other way round. Always acid should be added to water so that it is not dangerous. Why? Because if water is added to concentrated acid, huge amount of heat is generated and this may cause the acid to splash out of the beaker and it may cause severe burns. Therefore, always this is to be kept in mind that acid should be added to water and not the other way round. So now this process of mixing water in an acid, this actually results in decrease of hydronium ion or hydroxide ions per unit volume. In case of acid, the hydronium ions will decrease. In case of base, hydroxide ions will decrease. So this process is known as dilution. So now we can define dilution as the process of mixing an acid or a base with water to decrease the concentration of ions. Which ions? Hydronium ions in the case of an acid and hydroxide ion in the case of a base. Now actually what happens is, we already know that the concentration of hydronium ion is affected during this reaction. So why does this happen? The reason is, let's take an example and try to understand this. When water is added in HCl, right, what happens? This HCl, since it behaves as an electrolyte when dissolved in water, will dissociate into H ion and chloride ion. Now this H ion cannot exist independently. That is why this will combine to the water molecule and will produce a hydronium ion and will exist in this form, and chloride can independently exist. Now what happens, since the acid is in less quantity because more water is being added, therefore number of hydronium ions per unit volume, it will start decreasing, and this is how dilution is done. Well, we have already discussed about indicators in the first part of this unit. Let's discuss one more indicator which is known as universal indicator, and this indicator indicates the concentration of hydrogen ions in a solution. So an indicator which shows different colors at different concentrations of hydrogen ions in a solution is known as a universal indicator. So at this point pH scale should be talked about. A scale was developed to measure hydrogen ion concentration in a solution, and this scale is known as a pH scale, where P stands for potens, which is a German word. This pH scale ranges from 0 to 14. 0 means very acidic and 14 means very alkaline. The pH of a neutral solution is always 7. Below 7 is the acidic condition and from 7 to 14 is alkaline condition. Now what we need to discuss is about pH of salts. Yes, you heard it right. Earlier we have discussed that salts are formed in a neutralization reaction when acid and base, they neutralize each other's effect, and therefore a salt should be always neutral, but this is not the case sometimes. Let's discuss how is it possible. You should remember that salts of a strong acid and a strong base are always neutral and they have a pH of 7. On the other hand, salt of a strong acid and a weak base, they are acidic with pH value less than 7. This is because a strong acid will dissociate and there will be presence of H ions. That is why. Then salt of a strong base and a weak acid will be basic in nature because strong base will produce more OH ions. That is why it will be basic and its pH will be more than 7. Let's discuss pH of some common substances or solutions that we use in our day-to-day lives or which are found around us. pH 0 and colorless will be obtained with battery acid, strong sulfuric acid. Now let's discuss something very interesting that we almost all of us have experienced. Now whenever we feel stomach ache or whenever we have indigestion problem and because of that we experience acidity or burning sensation or stomach ache, what do? We actually take some Eno or we drink Gelusil syrup or we take some soda water, etc. So why do we do that? The reason being that excess production of acid in stomach because of indigestion, because of intake of too much of oily food or something. So what happens? This causes pain and irritation, right? So when we take or consume an antacid. Antacid is basically a base. It is a hydroxide. So what happens is when we consume this base, it basically neutralizes the excess acid present in the stomach and reduces the pain and irritation. And this is how we get relief from acidity. A simple concept based question can be asked in this particular topic. And the question is, how do antacids reduce pain and irritation caused due to indigestion? And we know the reason, right? And the reason is that antacid, being a base, neutralizes the excess acid produced by the stomach during indigestion, right? And so the pain is reduced. Now another question is, a person is suffering from indigestion due to the intake of hot spicy food. What remedy will you prescribe to the patient? Give the name of a chemical that can give relief to him. And we again know the answer. The person should be given an antacid like milk of magnesia, magnesium hydroxide. Why? To neutralize the excess acid produced and to get relief from the stomach ache and from indigestion, right? Children are often warned by their parents not to eat too much of chocolates, too much of sweets, otherwise your tooth will decay. So let's discuss what exactly is tooth decay and why does this happen? Why does this occur? So tooth decay is basically corrosion of tooth enamel. Now what is enamel? Enamel is the hard outer layer of your teeth, right? Now what happens is bacteria present in the mouth, it actually acts or it actually degrades the sugar and food particles remaining in the mouth after eating, right? And produces acid. This acid corrodes tooth enamel and makes it weak, causing corrosion, right? Now what happens when we take too much of carbohydrate containing food? Carbohydrate means sugar and starch. So these food may be cake, breads, milk, soda water, sweets, etc. So whenever these are consumed in lot of quantity, what happens? Whatever particles remain in the mouth, they are acted upon by the bacteria and acid is produced. Now this tooth decay condition can be quite dangerous. Why? Because it results in cavity. Plus it can even result in sometimes in tooth loss. So now you know why you should not consume too much of sweets. And even if you do that, then the best way to prevent tooth decay is to clean your mouth after eating food. This means after taking every meal, you should clean your mouth, you should brush your mouth teeth by using a toothpaste. Why? What does this toothpaste actually does? This toothpaste, which is generally basic in nature, it actually cleans your teeth. How? It neutralizes the excess acid because it is basic. So it will neutralize the excess acid produced in your mouth and hence thereby it will prevent tooth decay. Let's discuss another question. And the question is, you have two solutions A and B. The pH of solution A is 6 and pH of solution B is 8. Which solution has more hydrogen ion concentration? And which of this is acidic and which one is basic? This is your question. Now the answer, we already know the answer. The answer is that the pH value of less than 7 indicates an acidic condition and pH value more than 7 indicates a basic condition, right? So the answer will be the solution of the solution with a pH of 6 is acidic and it has more hydrogen ion concentration, and the solution with pH 8 will be basic, right? So why is solution A having more hydrogen ions? Because the solution which is more basic, it will always contain more H ions. It will always have higher hydrogen ion concentration. Always remember this, right? One more question is there. The soil in a field is highly acidic. List any two materials which can be added to this soil to reduce its acidity and give reasons. Again, the answer you already know. The answer is calcium carbonate, calcium oxide, or magnesium carbonate can be added to neutralize the acidity of the soil. Right? What we require? We require a base for neutralizing the acidity of the soil. And all these compounds, these are bases. Right? Let's quickly discuss pH in our day-to-day lives. Means let's discuss things, materials, substances present in our day-to-day life, and let's know their pH. Our body works within the pH range 7 to 7.8, means slightly alkaline conditions, right? The pH of our saliva is around 6.5 to 7.5. Then the pH of normal rain is around 5.6, right? But when it drops below 5.6, the condition is known as acid rain, right? The acid rain actually has the pH of around 2.6 to 3 maximum. Now this lowers the pH of the river water. Because of acid rain, the pH of the river water actually decreases. Now what will happen? This will actually result in survival of aquatic life becoming more difficult. Right? Now our stomach produces hydrochloric acid during digestion, which causes no harm. Absolutely no harm. It's a normal process. But during indigestion, stomach produces too much of acid and this causes pain and irritation. pH of tomato juice actually ranges from 4.1 to 4.6 and the pH of carrot juice is around 6.4, right? So tomato juice is more acidic than carrot juice. Then we also know that bacteria present in our mouth, they release acid by degrading the remaining sugar and food particles present in our mouth. This reduces the pH below 5.5 and corrodes calcium phosphate present in the tooth enamel, and the condition is known as tooth decay. We have already discussed this in the previous slides. Then let's discuss about bee sting. Now bee sting actually leaves acid that causes pain and irritation. It leaves acid on your skin, right? So that is why always lime is used to neutralize the effect of acid. Then nettle leaves. Nettle leaves also inject methanoic acid causing a burning sensation, a burning pain. So always a mild base is used like baking soda, etc. on the stung area and it always gives relief, right? Now let's discuss manufacturing process or preparation of a very important hydroxide, a very important base which is used in lab for practicals and it is also used in manufacturing industry. Yes, you guessed it right, it is sodium hydroxide. It is prepared by chlor-alkali process. Basically, it is prepared by passing electricity through an aqueous solution of sodium chloride, right? So basically, electrolysis of sodium chloride produces sodium hydroxide. How? Let's see. This is the figure and this is the apparatus containing the brine solution, which means aqueous sodium chloride is filled in this. There is one cathode and one anode. This is the cathode and this is the anode. Right. Now when these two are joined with external circuit and electric current is passed, what happens? Electrolysis begins. The sodium hydroxide and water molecules, they begin to dissociate into their ions. Now as we know, on cathode reduction takes place. So the hydrogen will get reduced, and hydrogen gas will liberate at the cathode. Right. On anode, oxidation will take place. So the chloride ion will get oxidized and it will get liberated on the anode. Now we are left with only sodium and hydroxide ions in the solution. Now these two will combine together to form sodium hydroxide, which is formed near the cathode. Right. So this is the process how sodium hydroxide is prepared, and this process is known as chlor-alkali process. Why? This chlor actually is taken from the chlorine gas produced, and alkali, of course, sodium hydroxide is the alkali produced. And this is the reaction. It can be written like this: sodium chloride plus water gives sodium hydroxide, and chlorine and hydrogen gas are evolved. Let's discuss one or two simple 1 mark questions based on this process. And the first question is, in the chlor-alkali process of manufacture of sodium hydroxide, name the gas produced at cathode and anode. So we already know chlorine gas is given off at anode and hydrogen gas is produced at cathode. The second part of the question is, at which electrode is sodium hydroxide formed? So we already know sodium hydroxide is formed near the cathode, right? The chlorine gas produced in this reaction has many uses. The most important is water treatment. Why? Why is it used in water treatment? Because chlorine gas is a very powerful disinfectant. It is used as a disinfectant in swimming pools, the water which is filled in swimming pools. And the municipality also uses chlorine gas for disinfecting the potable water, the drinking water that is supplied by the municipality, the municipal corporation. It is disinfected by using chlorine gas. Now this chlorine gas, what it does? It basically kills the pathogens, the disease causing bacteria in the present in the drinking water. It is also used in the manufacturing of PVC, polyvinyl chloride, CFC, which means chlorofluorocarbons, bleaching powder, and some pesticides. The hydrogen gas produced in this reaction is also used as a fuel, we all know. It is used in the manufacture of ammonia by Haber's process. You can see in this picture, ammonia is manufactured by Haber's process, and hydrogen is one of the one of the raw material of this process. Then hydrogen is also used in the manufacturing of ghee, margarine, etc. Uses of sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide is used for degreasing metals. When the coating of grease is deposited on metals, it is easily removed by sodium hydroxide. Then it is also used in making paper in paper industry. It is also used in the manufacture of soaps and detergents, and it is also used in artificial fiber industry. Let us now discuss some of the common bases found in our day-to-day lives that we use at our homes. The number one being bleaching powder. Bleaching powder is produced from, it is actually manufactured. How it is manufactured? By using the chlorine. Chlorine which is produced during the electrolysis of brine solution. It is used for manufacture of bleaching powder. The reaction is this. When chlorine gas reacts on dry slaked lime, it produces bleaching powder, and the reaction is like this. This is lime and this is chlorine. They both react and produce CaOCl2 plus water. Right? So this is your bleaching powder used for bleaching purposes at home. Uses of bleaching powder. Let's quickly discuss some uses of bleaching powder. It is basically used as a bleaching agent for cotton and linen in textile industry. So what exactly is bleaching powder? Bleaching agent. Bleaching means removal of color. So whenever we want to remove color from any second very common base at our homes that we use in our kitchens is baking soda. Yes, first of all, you should know that baking soda and baking powder both are very different. Baking soda is prepared by passing carbon dioxide gas through a concentrated solution of sodium chloride and ammonia. The reaction can be written like this: sodium chloride plus water plus carbon dioxide plus ammonia gives ammonium chloride plus sodium hydrogen carbonate. This is your baking soda. The chemical name of baking soda is basically sodium hydrogen carbonate, also known as sodium bicarbonate. Right? Sodium bicarbonate. So it is a non-corrosive basic salt, right? It is a basic salt and it is non-corrosive in nature. During cooking, what happens? What reaction does take place? This reaction takes place while cooking. Sodium hydrogen carbonate, when heated, breaks down to give sodium carbonate plus water plus carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide makes the food fluffy and soft and spongy. That is why baking soda is used for making food like breads and cakes fluffy. Uses of baking soda. You already know it is used for making baking powder. Yes, just now I told you baking powder and baking soda are different. Baking powder is actually produced from baking soda. How? By reaction of mild edible oil like tartaric acid with baking soda. And the reaction can be written like this. When the baking powder it is mixed with water or it is heated, this reaction takes place. And again carbon dioxide is released. This carbon dioxide is responsible for making the food fluffy and soft. Now being alkaline, it is an active ingredient of antacids. Yes, it is alkaline. So it can be used as an antacids which neutralizes excess acid and gives relief in case of acidity. It is also used in soda acid fire extinguishers. I have given these pictures for better understanding. Another very common base found in our homes is washing soda. Now washing soda is another derivative of sodium chloride. Sodium hydroxide we have already discussed. It is manufactured from sodium chloride. Now washing soda is also a derivative of sodium chloride. The baking soda, when it is heated, it produces sodium carbonate. Just now we have seen in the previous slide, when sodium hydrogen carbonate is heated, it breaks to give sodium carbonate, water and carbon dioxide. Now this sodium carbonate recrystallizes to yield washing soda. You can see the reaction. So basically, sodium carbonate when recrystallizes means when it forms its hydrate, and the hydrate is sodium carbonate 0.10 water molecules is washing soda. So now you know washing soda is the hydrate of sodium carbonate. Let's quickly discuss the uses of washing soda. Washing soda is used in glass, paper and soap industries. It is also used in the manufacturing of sodium compounds like borax. Borax we have discussed in the first slide of base that it is used as a cleaning agent, right? Then washing soda is also used as a cleaning agent for domestic purposes. Yes, the dishwasher. It contains washing soda. Or the dishwashing detergents, they contain washing soda. Then it is also used for removal of permanent hardness of water. We know the water that is hard, it is not suitable for drinking purposes and even for industrial purposes. So before using, it is the hardness is basically removed, and for removal, washing soda, that means sodium carbonate, is used. Let us quickly see what is water of crystallization. Yes, you have heard about this water of crystallization. You have heard about this. Now let's discuss what exactly it is. It is defined as the fixed number of water molecules present in one formula unit of a salt is known as water of crystallization. For example, let's take an example for to understand this. There are 5 water molecules in one formula unit of copper sulfate. Chemical formula of hydrated copper sulfate is copper sulfate point 5 water. Always remember this copper sulfate 0.5 water. This is not a compound. Means this water molecule is not reacting with copper sulfate and forming its some other compound, some hydroxide or something. No. It is shown like this 0.5 water. Why? Because some salts they have a tendency of absorbing water molecules. Right? They become what they absorb water molecules and become a little wet, and they exist in the form of hydrates. Right? This is known as hydrates. This is a hydrate of copper sulfate. Okay, these 5 water molecules are known as water of crystallization, and this compound will be known as hydrate of copper sulfate or hydrated copper sulfate. Got it? Now, another example is gypsum, which has 2 water molecules as water of crystallization. And the chemical formula is like this: calcium sulfate 0.2 water molecules, 2 water. Okay, it is also known as dihydrate, copper sulfate dihydrate. Also known as dihydrate of copper sulfate is gypsum. Are you getting the point? Gypsum on heating, it loses water molecules and becomes calcium sulfate hemihydrate. Hemihydrate means 0.5 water. This is known as plaster of Paris. Yes, you know what is plaster of Paris. It is a very common substance found. Now let's discuss the uses of plaster of Paris. Plaster of Paris is used by doctors for supporting the fractured bones in the right position. Right? Whenever your bones get fractured, what does doctor do? Doctor applies a plaster around it. Right? The plaster is made of plaster of Paris to put it in the right position. Now what happens when this plaster of Paris is mixed with water and applied? It actually forms a very hard solid mass, and this hard solid mass doesn't allow the bone to move from its position, and that is how the fractured bone after some time it basically joins back to its original condition. Now this reaction which we have just discussed can be written like this, right? When plaster of Paris, this is plaster of Paris, calcium sulfate 0.5 water molecule. This is chemically plaster of Paris. When this reacts with water molecule, it again forms gypsum. The hard solid mass, it is gypsum, right? Now, what does it mean by zero point 0.5 water molecule? How is it possible? 0.5 water molecule basically means that for every 2 molecules of calcium sulfate, there is 1 molecule of water present, right? For every 2 calcium sulfate molecules, there is 1 molecule of water, and that is why it is written as calcium sulfate point zero point 0.5 or half water molecule, right? Plaster of Paris is very common, very famous substance, we all know. It is used for making toys. It is used for making materials for decoration, home decoration items. It is used for making surfaces smooth in the manufacture of in the construction of houses basically. In the final finishing, it is mostly used in ceilings. For better understanding, I have given these pictures. The first picture is of a doctor applying the plaster of Paris to a fractured bone. The second picture is of toys made of plaster of Paris. We also know, apart from this, the idols of Lord Ganesha and Lord Durga that we use in the festivals, they are also made of plaster of Paris. Why? Because they are light in weight. And this third picture is of a decorative piece used in the ceiling. This is made of POP, plaster of Paris. Yes, in short, plaster of Paris is known as POP. You can see this particular piece at your homes behind your ceiling fan, at the base of the ceiling fan. So, with this topic, we actually come to an end to the chapter 2 of class 10, and I hope that all your topics must have been cleared by now. But still, if you have any doubt, please do post a comment in the comment box and I will get back to you. You can also visit the website for the study notes and also for any kind of confusion or doubt that you have, right?